I'm Jan Bray, and I am the principal of Bray Strategies, but I am the former executive director of the Association for Career and Technical Education. So the topic of how are we going to prepare our future teachers is very near and dear to my heart and to a lot of the work that ACT had been doing over the years. And there are some key questions that underline the how do we prepare them. And we're going to try to get to some of those issues and those questions today. And fortunately, we have an excellent panel that's going to bring very unique perspectives to this discussion today. And hopefully, they're going to push the envelope. They're going to say things. I always say the best kinds of sessions. So
Yes.
now here are two. I have two goals for this session. All right. One, I hope at the end you walk out of here pissed off. That something is said that goes, that really angers me, you know, or at least makes you really think. And the second one is that you walk out with an aha moment that says, oh, I hadn't thought about that. I should consider that. So if you walk out with both of those, then we have succeeded. If you walk out with at least either being pissed off or the aha moment and people come in going, what the hell is she talking about? Then we have really succeeded. So I hope you enjoy it. We are going to, about the way this is going to work is each of the panelists, and I'm going to briefly introduce them, and I mean very briefly because their bios are in your notebooks. I don't need to read them. You certainly can read them yourself. But they're each going to bring what they're working on and their perspective, how they're coming from that. We're going to have a dialogue up here with the panel, and then we're going to open it up to all of you to ask questions as well. I hope in your questions you will challenge the speakers. If you disagree with what they've said, don't be shy about it. I hope you push the envelope with them as well. So, because if we do not have teachers for all that we're talking about in this conference, if we don't have the right teachers with the right knowledge and the right skill sets, and I don't care if it's secondary, post-secondary, workforce development, then all that we're talking about is for naught. They are at the heart of what we're doing. So to be honest, I'm excited about this session because this session is the heart of the conference. No pressure, guys. So we have with us today on the panel, we have Marie Berry, who is the director of the Office of Career and Technical Education in the New Jersey Department of Education. And Marie is also, now, are you president-elect of? President, I can never remember, for the National Association of State Directors of Career and Technical Education. So she administers all the plans and the programs and the activities for the state of New Jersey, which is always in the news these days, but for a whole host of reasons. We have Belinda Cole. Belinda is the Associate Professor and Francis Tuttle Endowed Chair for Occupational Education Studies, College of Education at Oklahoma State University. Could you make it any longer?
That's higher ed. They love titles.
I tell you, it's and she was formerly the Associate State Director of CTE for the Oklahoma Department of Career and Technology Education. So she brings a very broad background into this discussion. We have Jesus Fernández, who's the Associate Provost for Curriculum Instruction at DeVry University. And he has served in many educational management capacities at the university over the past 10 years. And in his current role, he has spearheaded the implementation of DeVry's National College, as well as the development of new undergraduate and graduate degree programs. So he's going to bring a different perspective. And then finally, but certainly not least, is Ron Stefanski, who's the Chief Business Development Officer for Ed2Go Cengage Learning. And while he's served in the educational publishing industry for the past 30 years, Ed2Go is doing a tremendous amount of work in the whole online arena, which, as we know, is going to dramatically change not only education, but also the teaching profession. So a very diverse group of panelists. I encourage you to read their bios in your notebook because they have extensive, very impressive bios. And with that, I'm doing this alphabetically. Let me just also say, Sharon Robinson, who's the executive director of the American Association Colleges of Teacher Education, was supposed to be on the panel. And because of the weather, she is not able to be here, and she sends her regrets. They are announcing tomorrow they have just completed a broad research study on the profession of teaching and changes with recommendations for changing. So it will be posted on their website soon. And I also encourage you, at some point, probably at this point, when you leave, there are 2 handouts. One's on the state of New Jersey, another one's a background paper done by Harvard University on the profession of teaching. So, Marie, I'm going to start with you.
Thank you, Jan, and thank you all for working your way down to this room to share with us our stories. As Jan mentioned, I'm kind of wearing 2 hats as I'm up here. One as the president of the National Association of State Directors in Career and Technical Education Consortium. It's also a very long name. That represents state directors in the 50 states and territories, and as well as the state director of New Jersey. So I want to first speak to the role as the president of our association, which every 2 years we put a survey out to states to kind of identify what are some of the trends that we're seeing across the country in CTE. And since 2008, one of the trends that has been identified is the fact that there are shortages of CTE teachers. Critical shortages that I think are impacting our ability to kind of do our work. Interestingly enough, and this is both at the secondary and the post-secondary level, there's some clusters we queried, which clusters we seem to have the most dire need in. Not surprisingly so, are the areas that we have a lot of demand for programs and students and the related industry needs. So health sciences, STEM, and manufacturing. At the secondary level, we're clearly there was a indication that these are areas of critical shortage. Also, as you hear those areas, there's constant need to have be sure that our teachers are current with what's happening in these industries. So that's clearly a challenge. Post-secondary, same kind of the faculty shortages were identified in similar areas: STEM, manufacturing, health sciences, and IT and agriculture. Actually, agriculture seemed to bubble to the top not to the top, but in one of the top areas in both 2010 and 12. So, and I think that has a lot to do with the way that we're looking at agriculture nowadays. It's really about a strong science base that is about agriculture, food, and natural resources. And so clearly there's a need across the country and all states for a lot of our qualified teachers. Retirement has played a strong issue in the loss of teachers, but I think the new vision for CTE has demanded that we really have teachers that are prepared to teach and have the pedagogical skills that are going to be important for learning the academic and the technical skills. The secondary level has really demanded that. And we're going to see across the country, I think this is a trend that is not disappearing. I think, as Jan said, it's concerning across the country. The other part I just want to briefly talk about, too, is what we are doing in New Jersey. I think one of the things we saw in our survey across the states is that there are various kind of efforts that seem to wane depending on funding. Various efforts in different states for recruitment and retention of CTE teachers, but they're often dependent on funding availability to kind of spur these efforts. So in New Jersey, we have had a really dedicated effort since 2009. It was a result of regulations. Our state board adopted regulations that required CTE teachers to have an alternate route, separate 200-hour preparation program. New Jersey has a history of alternate route preparation, but up until that time, CTE teachers who were entering the profession could be in an alternate route program sitting next to a social studies teacher, a 5th grade math teacher, and we were getting feedback that their experience held no value for them, that they felt that they were entering a CTE classroom not prepared for anything, not prepared for the world of what CTE expectations were. So this was actually, very positive for us. It allowed us an opportunity, and we engaged in a year-long experience where we gathered focus groups together of teachers that recently completed a program. What did they feel they needed most? We talked to supervisors, principals who were working with new CTE teachers, and what did they feel were really important elements in a preparation program, as well as certainly looking at teacher standards. And as a result of a year-long effort, we started a pilot program. The pilot program is a blended learning experience. It's 200 hours, and I should say in New Jersey, any alternate route teacher has to spend 24 hours in a pre-service program before they can even walk into a classroom, and that's a generic kind of classroom management, some general pedagogy kind of skills. But then the alternate route CTE program starts when a teacher has an offer of employment. They get a certificate of eligibility, and they must enroll in a 200-hour program. It is blended learning. There are 9 cohort Saturday experiences throughout their program. We kind of divide it into 3 phases. I won't get into all the detail around that. But so there's the teachers gather together, usually one Saturday a month, and spend a full day together, kind of debriefing their experiences, working on how to develop project-based learning, sharing their experience in their learning in the CTE classrooms, and really kind of growing as a cohort together. So we have found that this has been very valuable. Actually, as part of the pilot program, we've now completed our 2nd year and have served or are still serving about 300 students. We have had an external evaluation study done each year, which has then helped us. It's really been an iterative process in terms of improving the program each year. The National Research Center for CTE has been doing that for us, and I just had the privilege of meeting our primary evaluator, who I've talked to on the phone, had emails to, but Rob Schumer, who could probably share some of his the work that he's done with us too. So we've learned a lot. We believe that this is going to help with our CTE retention. The work, some of the surveys that we've done with our students have told us that the most valuable experience has been working together with the CTE teachers, hearing how they're managing through their first very challenging year. And we really have built in some very unique elements of CTE that are not found in other kind of classrooms, that work-based learning experience, some other kind of things such as just safety and areas that are in any kind of CTE program. So also our CTE teachers can get a certificate of eligibility without a bachelor's degree or without an associate's degree. But through this program, they do have an opportunity to earn 15 college credits. So that we're hoping, that will continue their learning and perhaps, go on for both their associates if they don't have that, or their baccalaureate degree. Observations are built into this, so as part of the program, there are folks that go out and do some observations of the teachers. There's also a mentor in the school that works to support the teacher. Students have a capstone project, and at the end of their time there, they participate in a conference together. That has, again, been, from the feedback, a really valuable kind of experience. So I could talk lots about this, and I'll leave some time. Certainly, you may have questions about that, but I think some of the things that we are real excited about is Princeton University has recently, we've been working with them to do hopefully more longitudinal studies where we may have the opportunity to have case studies of some of our teachers who have been through this program to see do they stay in the profession, and if not, why not? You know, and then hopefully that will inform us in creating a more robust program that's responsive to their needs. So with that said, I will stop here and hand off to my colleagues before I take too much time.
Good morning. I'm Belinda Cole, as Jan said, Oklahoma State University, and I have been there about 5 years. In my former life, I was at the State Department of Career and Technical Education as Associate Director and State Guidance Supervisor, and before that, teaching and all that kind of thing. So this is, I've not been born and raised in the higher ed system, so I've had a lot to learn. But I think also I come with that practical experience of working, you know, on the state side of, you know, supporting teachers with professional development and seeing some of their needs. We have some clear trends, and this is one of the things that Jan said I hope you're pissed off about. We are losing career technical teacher preparation programs right and left. As a matter of fact, in Oklahoma, 10 years ago, we had 10 programs. Today, we have one program that trains ag ed teachers, one school that trains family and consumer science teachers, and there were 2 of us that had comprehensive programs, and last week, the second school decided they would discontinue their program. So Oklahoma State University is the last standing one that works with all teachers. And that's not a healthy thing. You know, that is not healthy at all. You might think we're dancing in the streets to think we have more students, but that's not healthy because number one, you know, the issues are, you know, how do we serve statewide? We do have a statewide mission because we're a comprehensive research university. However, that does pose some problems. And so, you know, that's something that we should be very upset about. One of the issues that we have is because of the way our teachers come to us. For example, we have about 300 undergrads, roughly, and that are on our books that we work with. And this year, as we were looking at scholarships, we have several scholarships that are for full-time undergrad CTE students. Guess how many we had? 3. We had 2 scholarships. So we had 2 recipients and 1 alternate. And so, you know, we don't have those full-time traditional students any longer. Our teachers are working full-time. They are second career individuals. And one of the problems is that with the higher ed system of accountability, they look at production over 6 years. Our teachers take much longer than 6 years to get a bachelor's degree if they come in with no education at all, which coming from an industry, you can't get a bachelor's degree as an ASE auto mechanic. You come from industry. So that's one of the issues that we have with being able to show production to, and we're small anyway, we're a small piece of teacher education in most universities. So that's one of our issues. About 10 years ago in Oklahoma, we saw that we were kind of had a revolving door with those who were coming in an alternate route, certainly not our ag ed teachers and not our family consumer science teachers, but those that are coming in as an alternate route. And we saw that we were losing about 50% of our teachers that were coming in the door and going right back out. And so we knew that something needed to be done. So we worked in, because you think about these teachers, they're coming straight from industry. When you're coming from industry into education in most fields, number one, you take a cut in pay. That's almost immediate. So whatever reason, whether it's altruistic, whether you've had an injury, you have a cut in pay. Then we say, welcome to the profession. By the way, you have to take 15 hours of coursework within the first period of time, and it's going to cost you X number of dollars per credit hour. Welcome to the profession. And then you have to take 3 tests that are, you know, phrased out, and those cost X number of dollars per test. And it's a different environment. You can't fire students like you fire employees. You can't do that. So learning about the classroom management, like Marie said, is a huge issue. So we expect a lot of people coming from industry. And yet we want those excellent teachers because we need those excellent employees. So again, we saw that teachers were coming and leaving because they weren't prepared for what they were facing. So we developed a teacher induction program about 10 years ago. We're also running another one, and I'll talk about that briefly. But we had a university mentor assigned to each new teacher with monthly mentoring visits from a university mentor. We also had a school mentor, like Marie said, that was assigned, and they had to complete 72 hours of one-on-one mentoring with that teacher in 1 year. We were able to give a small stipend, we still do, from the State Department of Career Tech for that mentor, a whole $500 for that 72 hours of mentoring, but at least it's something to say we appreciate you, we value you. And the school instructional leader also has a list of responsibilities, and I can give you anything that you want about that. The program lasts 1 school year. In that 10 years, we've moved from a 50% retention rate to about 75 to 85%, depending on the cohort of teachers. So we have been following them for 10 years, which is certainly better than the 50%. Our research has shown that another danger time is at 3 years. So they make it through their first year, have lots of support, and then the second year, they are okay. Then the third year comes, and where's their support? We don't have the mentoring program any longer. The school mentors kind of gone away, so we kind of forget about them. So we're realizing that we're going to have to look at something a little longer than 1 year to keep those teachers, because again, we're having fewer and fewer come through the pipeline. So the issue that we have with that is that we're not covering all teachers. In Oklahoma, in the past, we've had an induction year, an entry year program that was funded by the state for all entry year teachers, whether you're an English teacher, a math teacher, whatever. And so our high school teachers were covered under that. They too had a university mentor. They had a team at the high school. About 3 years ago, that was defunded at the state level because of budget cutbacks. So our high school teachers get nothing except what our state program administrators can provide to them. We have a 2-day, really quick teacher institute before our new teacher induction 2-day in the summer, right before our summer conference. And that's really all our high school teachers get. With the induction program, it's funded by our technology centers. We have 29 technology centers around the state, and they serve both high school students in a region and adult students. And so the induction program has been funded partially by the State Department of Career Tech and then partially by the tech centers who engage in the program. I would love to say that all of our technology centers engage in that program, or the other one I'm going to talk about, but they don't. The teachers I really worry about are the ones whose schools do not participate in either program. So, that's the only ones we're keeping data on are the ones that we're serving from Oklahoma State. So a few years ago, the superintendents, of course, superintendents always want more, faster, better. They were saying, universities, you're taking too long to work with these teachers. We're not getting teachers through with all of their with their degrees, their college credits fast enough. And we don't have a limit on how long it takes to get a bachelor's degree in Oklahoma with those teachers. And there's always that balance, how far do you push them? But you certainly shouldn't let it take 25 years to get your bachelor's degree either. So, we have stages. We have a provisional. You have to get so many hours before you move to the provisional level 2, and then, so we have it staggered that they have to keep working on their progress to get their hours done toward a bachelor's degree. So SREB, Southern Region Education Board, began a project of a fast-track new teacher induction program. And we signed up to be one of the pilot states. And it was an iterative process through the National Research Center for Career and Technical Education. And there's information about it. They have it's not out yet. I got this from Dr. Bottoms yesterday, he brought it to me. It will be on their SREB website very soon. It talks about the program. But we have had now, as a result of that, we've done 2 cohorts on our own. They've been small because we've had this traditional induction program, so it's been a bit confusing with our state about, what's this all about. But the good news is we've had a small start with our two rounds so far. We've had 20 students in 2 years. Again, it has to be funded by a combination of state monies and technology center money. So again, this program is only for technology center teachers, but that's where our non-degree teachers come to teach. We have had 2 so far that have not continued for a couple of different reasons. One, he was running a family business alongside of teaching and decided that was just too much. And the other one had some issues in the school. So, darn it, we were hoping for 100%. But two also that came in with bachelor degrees but did not have teaching experience with this program, and let me explain it. We'll go real quickly here. Within the program, you have 10 days of instruction, very, very in-depth, 8-hour-a-day plus homework instruction for 10 days prior to their first year of teaching. Hopefully prior to their first year of teaching. We've not been able to quite get that pure. But then we also have a video conference with them either each month, or we have a visit, or we have a 2-day quarterly meeting with them for additional content. There are 4 modules in the program: instructional strategies, instructional planning, classroom management, and classroom assessment are the 4 modules. And it's a spiral curriculum, so each time we meet with them, we do a little bit more, going more deeply into the content. And I have to say that, we don't have a lot of data on this yet, except, our 20 teachers, we've lost 2. 2 of the ones that came in with bachelor degrees already that went through the program have gone on to work on their masters. And so I think that's a pretty good, pretty good indication that this works. The issues that we have, like Mary said, the cohorts become very close. That's not an issue, that's a very positive. They really continue, they have a group that they know, they can call on each other. And the other piece of anecdotal data is that these school administrators who have chosen to try this new program have sent teachers back for the 2nd year. They believe that in their minds, and also the National Center has done some research to follow up on this, that they believe that these teachers are better prepared because we know what they're taking. With the other induction program, which has been great, we don't have a succession of courses that are required. So they may not get to anything with a lot of instructional planning for a couple of years. So the mentor really has to do a lot of that work with them. With this program, it's more structured. So we meet with them the 2 weeks before they start. We have a webinar or an observation each month. Then quarterly, we have a 2-day session with them on a Friday and Saturday. And then the summer following their first year of teaching, we're coming up on that with our group, we meet with them an additional 10 days. And within that the first 2 weeks before they start teaching, our goal is to have 6 weeks of lesson plans done so that they can walk in day 1 and have a presentation to introduce themselves. They have a course syllabus, they have letters to their parents, they have their lesson plans done in a very prescribed way. So we feel like those teachers are very well prepared going into the classroom. Issues, again, the cost. It has to be funded. We fund it jointly by the state. We've been able to tap into some lottery fund dollars to help fund some of these things. We also are able, with lottery funds, to provide some scholarships for these teachers so that the tuition for the college credit is not so steep. We are able to give, we call it the basic 15. They're required to have 15 credit hours, college hours, before they move from a provisional level 1 certificate to provisional level 2. Through this program, we're able to give them 12 of the 15 hours. The only pieces that this curriculum does not cover that is required in our state is safety. We don't cover the safety in this program, nor do we cover being an advisor for career tech student organizations very fully. We hit upon it a little bit as far as integration of projects into the curriculum, but those are the 2 other classes that they have to take. Cost, like I said, this is the problem. It serves only technology center teachers, and for the same reasons that we had for the other induction program. And I'll just be very frank about it, this model threatens some of my colleagues at higher ed because it's different. I know that's shocking, very shocking that professors would be rigid, but somehow it's not quite as good because it's delivered so fast. But we have all the seat hours that they would have in a normal 15 hours plus some. So, I feel very good about the content. So we're still wrangling. We are giving them credit over protest of at least one of my colleagues, and we're getting ready to, as an advisor, a supervisor of mine used to say, we're going to have a come to Jesus meeting real soon about this. But it's only fair that these teachers are putting in a lot of work, and they should have college credit for it. So we're now trying to figure out how to connect the 2 programs because there are value in both of the programs. And we're hoping, we're just initially trying to figure out how to make a 3-year support system for our teachers. So stay tuned, we're yet to work on that. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My presentation is going to be a little bit different in that I'm going to give you a bit of a case study as to how we do teacher hiring and prep and support at DeVry. I'm not sure if I'm going to pass the piss-off standard that Jan laid out. Hopefully not, but hopefully I have some things that will make you think, that's interesting. Maybe we can follow up on that. So let me just start off, because some of you may not know a lot about DeVry, to give you just some relevant facts that could help you frame this whole case study. We have more than 95 locations throughout the U.S. We have more than, during the period that ended June 30th, the one-year period, we had more than 100,000 students enrolled at DeVry. We have more than 700 full-time faculty at DeVry. Yes, we do have full-time faculty. We have a pool of several thousand adjuncts that we deal with every semester. We teach at both the bachelor's and the master's level. We are broken down academically into 5 colleges or academic units, and each college is headed by a national college dean. And the colleges are business and management, engineering and info sciences, health sciences, liberal arts and sciences, and media arts and technology. So you can see they all have a clear direct link to a career. We teach both on-site and online. We teach in 8-week sessions. So 2 sessions equal a traditional semester. So 2 8 weeks is a traditional 16-week semester. Although I said we teach in online and on-site, we teach within those areas in 3 modalities. Online, which is 100% online. Blended, which is roughly 50% on-site and 50% online. And the characteristic for us for blended is that there's typically 1 face-to-face class meeting during each of the 8 weeks. The remainder of the activity is online. And then it's something that we call online, which is not purely 100% on-site, I'm sorry. There is some e-augmentation in the on-site courses, but not more than 20%. So, and it could also be, an on-site course can have no e-augmentation, and we do have a few of those. Typically, those courses have 2 class meetings face-to-face per week for the 8 weeks. So you see, it's a pretty large system. We've got lots of moving pieces and lots of complexity to it. So how do we do this at DeVry? I'm going to start off with focusing on faculty hiring. And we do things a little bit differently on-site and online. For on-site faculty, the process is owned by the National College Dean because they own the discipline of that college with a strong partnership with location academic deans. Each location also has academic administrators on-site that help coach and guide faculty. Both full-time and adjunct faculty on-site report to the on-site academic dean. They have a very strong dotted line to the National College Dean, so they form a large community within that college. There's a dedicated recruitment team within our HR function that supports on-site faculty hiring. So we have dedicated resources that are just looking for full-time faculty. We have a major expansion in our full-time faculty corps underway. During the next 3 years, we'll be hiring over 300 additional full-time faculty to our cadre. And during the last 6 months, we've hired 40. So we're actively looking for full-time faculty and expanding our full-time faculty pool. In terms of sourcing, we use all the traditional sources that HR folks use to look for people. We post on the web. We do a lot with social media and web recruiting. LinkedIn has been a wonderful source for us in terms of looking for faculty. It's amazing how many folks are posting on LinkedIn and how easy you can find them. And we've gotten some great faculty that have come into DeVry through LinkedIn. We use our industry advisory councils, referrals, we hire from adjuncts, so we do a variety of techniques that are pretty standard in the hiring and sourcing area. For our online courses, the process is also owned by the National College Dean with a couple of tweaks. For online, full-time faculty and adjunct faculty, so folks that are teaching exclusively 100% online courses for their complete teaching load, they report directly to our national college deans. They hire the online full-time faculty. The location academic deans are not involved with 100% full-time online faculty because those folks can be anywhere. They're not necessarily where we have a location. We also have a dedicated recruiting team. That's a different group than the one that's focusing on on-site. So this group is solely focused on looking for folks that want to teach online. And they're paired with a position that we call faculty managers, and I'll get into that in a second, that are part of each national college team. The recruiters pre-vet the potential hires, check credentials, validate what the individual can teach, and then the faculty managers hire all of our online faculty, adjuncts. In terms of preparation, training, and retention, we also kind of have a breakdown between on-site and online. Our on-site support for faculty is very, very similar to models that are used in traditional institutions. And I use traditional in quotes because we think we're pretty traditional ourselves. In the interest of time, I'm not going to spend too much time on the on-site faculty preparation, but I'll be happy to address any questions you have or talk to you offline about that. So that kind of leaves us with our online faculty, and what do we do with them? The key to the training and support of our online faculty are our faculty managers. These are dedicated administrative positions. All faculty that teach online are coached and supported by the faculty managers. Each college has its own team of faculty managers that cover various subject areas. We have 38 of those folks that cover all 5 colleges. So you see, we've got a fairly dedicated resource just for that. Our faculty managers have had prior college level teaching experience, so they've walked the walk. They know what they're talking about, and they can talk to faculty in a language that faculty understand. The faculty managers provide faculty with, as one quoted to me, help for anything, anytime. They offer faculty members personalized support and a point of contact every session. This level of support is given every session of the academic year. And so that's 6 sessions a year that faculty managers are working. And typically, although there can be exceptions, faculty have the same faculty manager from session to session. They typically have it during their whole career at DeVry. Faculty managers also facilitate training for online faculty before and during before they start teaching and as they're teaching. There are 2 main types of courses that we offer, and these are online courses. One is for somebody who's brand new into teaching at DeVry, and we call it Introduction to Systems and Processes. And it consists of a 2-week online training course with benchmarks that must be met successfully. It is not paid. Ironically, we used to pay for that before, and our retention, our dropout rate from the course was very high. We would get people to come in, and then they would not continue. When we stopped paying, which really makes no sense, our attrition rate dropped dramatically. So everybody that comes in usually stays with the course, finishes it, and goes on to teach. So it's been an interesting development for us. We do have full-time faculty that are on site that also teach online. And so we have a version of that course that we call multimodality training that also prepares them for how to teach online and the tools that are available online. The successful completion of those training courses generally leads to the first teaching session. So it's all done before they actually start teaching. The faculty managers are in regular contact with their online faculty each session, and they really provide 3 types of ongoing support. First is operational or administrative, anything that deals with either the LMS that we're using or policy questions that they may have concerns about. Advocacy, we have, sometimes we have student issues, and so the faculty manager helps guide the person through this very large very matrix-oriented organization that we have at DeVry. And then lastly, academic. Any specific academic issues that they need help, any resources that they might need for their classes, tools, library support, tutoring support, they know where to get that information and get it to the faculty member. We also have a number of tools that are used by the faculty managers to help monitor and coach faculty throughout each session. They're reports, and they can be weekly discussion reports on activity, gradebook activity reports to monitor grading timeliness. We also have an internal CRM system that we've modified so that faculty can get a message in and we can respond to it very, very quickly. We do virtual course observations for all of our courses every session. And at minimum, each faculty member is going to be observed once a year and given feedback and coaching and guidance, and hopefully identify best practices they can share with other faculty. Students evaluate all of our courses each session. So all that data is shared from a developmental perspective with the faculty member, and if there's a need for an action plan or something that the faculty member wants to tweak in what they did, that is supported and helped by the faculty manager. So if I were to kind of sum everything up, things that you might want to remember as you're looking at this within your own organization is, one, you need a strong organization and infrastructure. It's got to be an institutional priority. It is for us. You need to have the right culture for faculty support. Again, it's that priority and making sure that it's a top issue for the institution. Use technology appropriately, but technology is not the answer to everything. You can kind of go crazy with technology and put in all the bells and whistles, but you may not use a lot of it. Pay attention to the optics and words that are used in programs. For example, I use faculty managers a lot. We're getting ready to really kind of junk that term and come up with a better term, because what these folks do is coach and guide. Management kind of implies something else, and so and really that suggestion came from them, and we kind of said, yeah, you're right. And so we're in the process of really working with the folks that hold these positions to figure out what should we call them, what should we use to define them. Realize that any of these efforts are going to take resources. We spend a lot of money on this. Just salaries alone, when you factor in over 50 people that are just dedicated on managing this process, a lot of resources. And we always think of how you can make it better, and don't be afraid to change it. We believe that support and coaching is iterative and a dynamic process, and some of the things that we're working on updating right now is the faculty manager change that I just mentioned. This whole process for us kind of grew up through two silos, on-site and online, and now as we've blended everything within the university, we realize we have to come and blend these two programs together. So that'll be something that we'll be working on over the next 6 months. We really want to work on enhancing adjunct training and development. We're starting to see that bubbling up from our both regional accreditors and programmatic accreditors, where before the question is, well, how do you develop your full-time faculty? Now the question is, how do you develop your adjunct faculty? And there's an expectation that you have programs set up to do that. So we're looking at that and how we could do that. We want to update our training and development courses, the two that I mentioned, and we want to add more options and more components to our training program that can be used by our faculty. We feel very, very positive about what we do in this area. Our feedback from faculty is really, really high. We survey all our team members at DeVry for engagement, and for the last 3 years, historically, faculty have scored at the top of the heap in terms of being engaged, almost to the point, and there are what they call world-class standards for engagement, and our faculty are in that grouping. And so we're constantly asking them for feedback for improvement. So hopefully, there are some things here that you might be interested in looking at. Be happy to share with you all either today or at a later point. Thank you.
All right. Well, I've been in the, I was just telling Jan before he started, I was thinking about things that piss me off and things that might provide an aha moment. And I've been in the e-learning business now for about 16 years, which translated, if you look at e-learning years, much like dog years, that means about 112 years. But in that time, I think what we've seen is that e-learning at the outset seemed to be ready and poised to cure everything from the achievement gap to professional development for teachers and some forms of cancer. I think that that's probably not the case, but the thing that, I'm going to use a pissed off moment to kind of put this into context about what we've learned about e-learning and how it can be used in teacher training and development efforts. When I first got into e-learning, it was at the Michigan Virtual University. We launched a virtual high school, now the second largest in the country. And in 2001, I was delivering this program at Detroit Public Schools. And a student walked into the office, and we were being told by the administration that our kids are not ready for this. This is for your students in suburban Detroit, but our kids have other issues that we need to deal with. And just as we were moving from meeting to meeting, we were sitting in the principal's office, and in walked a student. I asked what he was there for, and he said, well, I was working on this car and things kind of got out of hand. Well, it turned out that he had stolen the car. And he had stolen it by hot wiring the engine and the ignition. And so I thought to myself, this kid is actually quite brilliant to be, 14, 15 years old and be able to figure out an ignition. I know nothing other than to stick a key in it. So I was with a DPS administrator, Caesar Mickens, one of my co-authors and collaborators for the last 10 years. And he and I agreed this kid was slated for other things. So at the time, we were offering advanced placement courses, and I was here at Detroit Public Schools to talk to them about that when they were saying our kids have other issues. Well, this kid was enrolled in advanced physics, and we had come to learn that he was studying calculus from a book that he had found masking or duct taped from the library. And so we said, I bet he can handle advanced placement physics. And so we put him in an online class, and he thrived, and he went on to graduate and have 6 credit hours towards college. So the aha moment in that was that there's high tech, but there's also high touch that needs to accompany that. This kid had was learning high tech, but he needed touch. He needed someone in that system to care enough to recognize that he had skills, he had abilities, and they needed to be channeled through high expectations. So I think that sometimes one of the learnings that we have is that education and learning are sometimes enjoying a very long and unhappy marriage, and sometimes we have to sort of provoke that. So in the same way, we launched an initiative in the state at that time for teachers, and it was a laptop initiative, and we gave away 80,000 laptops to teachers, and we said as part of your professional development, we're going to provide a suite of courses to help you learn how to use this computer in the classroom. Courses were all online, and needless to say, of the 70,000 licenses that we purchased, about 1,000 of them were utilized because we didn't combine high tech and high touch. And so I think we've learned a lot since then. And I now work in an organization, Ed2Go, which is the e-learning arm of a large textbook publisher called Cengage Learning. And we take the assets of the organization and turn them into courseware. And so we provide a lot of Pathways courses for students through a partner network of about 2,000 community colleges. In the course of doing that, we learned that there were really 3 things that drove teachers in the realm of professional development. That when they sat in classes, and we were delivering this at Detroit Public Schools and other places, we learned that unless you could do one of 3 things, teachers weren't going to abide much teacher professional development without tremendous anxiety, frustration, and indifference. One was the outcome had to help them take time off tasks. So either managing the class or managing the grading. The second was increase the reach. If I can reach more students using technology, then it's a boon to me. And the third was, as Jan so eloquently pointed out, it's to create an aha moment with my students. Can technology be used to harness learning in new ways? So in the course of that, we've now at Ed2Go developed a cadre of over 60 courses that we provide to teachers for teacher professional development, everything from Singapore math to managing discipline issues in the classroom. And we now provide that course experience to over 20,000 teachers. So we're educating about 1,600 a month or 400 a week, and doing it online. And for many of those teachers, it's the convenience of being able to manage a classroom and manage a home life and be able to take that. A lot of it is the cohort. And what we find is that the interactions with teachers are really what drives spectacular results. Teachers often find that they have, in an online environment, an opportunity to create a more meaningful connection than they do in the actual classroom. By definition, someone that's teaching or experiencing learning in an online setting has to be participating or they don't exist. And so I think that's what teachers in our system have come to learn. And so I think that those are some of the things that we can use e-learning to help accomplish in the terms of training a pipeline of students. I think technology brings a scale to this problem when we think about the numbers of teachers that you're trying to reach and the numbers of teachers we must reach. I think technology is not the answer. I think it's a tool among many in an arsenal of things we have to deliver if we want to deliver on the promise to our kids out there in a learning capacity. So those are the kinds of things that we've learned at EDIGO in terms of helping our partners in community colleges to deliver real value to the outcomes for teachers that are delivering value to students.
Great. All right, so now the fun begins. Because you've heard some very interesting stories, some similarities, some differences, both traditional CTE, online CTE, but I think an undercurrent there is we definitely have an issue in terms of attracting teachers. And there are a lot of questions and issues that go with attracting the teachers. So I'm going to start with one controversial one, guys, and I'm going to ask you to respond to them. We are going to open this up to everybody in the room pretty soon. I remembered, this had to have been about 7 years ago, I was at a meeting of the National Board of Professional Teaching Standards. They convened a small group of us regarding standards for CTE teachers. And we spent a day arguing, and this is about the certification for teachers. What should it be for CTE? And at the end of the day, the board, and certainly some people in that room said, why do we need a separate standard and a separate process for CTE teachers? So my question to all of you, because this comes up all the time, if Sharon Robinson was here, she and I talk about this all the time. Is there a difference? Given all that we're talking about in this conference and across the country about the integration, the convergence of academic and technical, that it's about student learning and we've got to break down the silos. I mean, all those discussions are going on. Is there a difference between, for teacher preparation, between academic and CTE? That'll shut them off real quickly.
No. Well, I think there are differences, but there are similarities. And I think that what we heard from CTE teachers was when they were in our alternate route preparation, they weren't prepared. So we responded to that. So I think we are using all the professional teaching standards within our CTE alternate route program. But in addition, there are some components of understanding what a quality CTE program is, first of all. Second of all, these individuals are coming from business and industry. In our other alternate route program in New Jersey, and I'm using New Jersey as a standard, the only way you enter the other one is if you have a baccalaureate degree, and that means you're already been, attuned to the world of academia in a way. Our alternate route teachers are often folks that have been out of academics since high school. We get a lot of retired professionals, plumbers, electricians, people that have owned businesses and are now saying they want to contribute. They've been out of the world of the academics for so long. So I think, yes, they need to kind of feel safe and with others that are somewhat, similar to them and not feel intimidated by the academics. So we also have a strong focus in our program on how do these teachers integrate literacy. Common Core standards are part of their instruction. How do they understand the standards? How do they integrate and create lessons that address the standards? So while they're teaching to the same standards, there's a lot that I think we need to do to address the specific needs of the CTE teachers, as well as kind of the content the whole work-based learning is an issue that is really unique to CTE. So we spend a lot of time talking about what are work-based learning experiences, what are structured learning experiences. The goal may be in all academic worlds, there should be that kind of contextual learning, but the reality is that's not where it is. This is what our CTE teachers are faced from the minute they walk in the classroom. So I do think they need to have a separate program. And we would also say the feedback we're getting from supervisors and principals in these schools when these teachers have attended this program has been incredible. They believe their existing teachers should now, their CTE teachers should attend this kind of program. So I would say yes.
I agree for all the reasons that Marie said. Plus, if you don't do measurements correctly in a mathematics problem in a math class, you get the answer wrong. If you incorrectly measure dosage of medication, people can die. That's a big difference. The stakes within our CTE programs are much higher in that the precision of the profession requires great attention. There are lots of moving parts in a CTE lab, and many times people can be injured or even die if that is incorrectly managed. So the safety alone makes it important. We also have teachers that have to manage, and science teachers do too, the classroom, but also the laboratory. In addition, in Oklahoma, our teachers teach both adults and high school students in the same classroom. They need andragogy, study of adult learning, in addition to pedagogy. So that's a really different thing. And you know, in the average teacher prep program, you're just talking K-12. So we saw that our teachers were very unprepared for the adult learners coming in and teaching them. So that's another piece. But also, CTE teachers are expected to interface with industry, have advisory committee programs, need to update their curriculum at least annually, if not every 6 months, during the middle of the year. So having that ongoing, turn on a dime update of curriculum does not happen in history or English that it does in CTE. So those facts alone make it very different for CTE teachers. The induction of a CTE teacher looks, yes, the instructional processes, planning instruction, doing lesson plans, that's all the same. However, managing a laboratory with lesson plans looks a lot different than it does with managing a classroom. So yes, they are different.
All right, so I'm going to push. I told you I'm going to piss somebody off here. And I'm going to push back on this for a moment because I think this is the heart of the issue. That's right. Because I think all subject matters, there is an issue in terms of teacher recruitment and teacher preparation. I don't care what the topic is. And a lot of what you guys are mentioning is content. Content very important, critical, whether it's in nursing or whatever. So I guess, there's two questions. Is it that, there's basic teacher preparation, regardless of what you teach, and then you go off into specialties. If you're a math teacher, you go this way, a science teacher, because science teachers have to learn labs, an automotive instructor, there's then that, and there is work-based learning, and I agree with you. The question also is CTE becoming a second career to CTE teachers? Are more and more of our CTE teachers, this is a second career for them. They've worked in industry, and now they're coming back, and they need a different kind of preparation than those who are coming straight from school. So I guess those are, almost two separate questions. But I think we keep talking about CTE preparation being different. But we want that math and science teacher and that English teacher to talk about application, to set up their own labs and their own environment, and even to reach out for work-based learning experience. It's not technical, it's different. So why is CTE teacher preparation different?
From my perspective, because we view things a little bit differently, it shouldn't be. It should maybe be the new model for teacher preparation across the board. Because, when you were talking, to us, it's not an or issue. It's an and I would add that third domain that you added in there, just basic teacher prep. I want my faculty to be master teachers, and then to also be academically prepared in their disciplines and have an idea of what to be a practitioner is about. And we have a lot of folks that also come from that had a prior career and transitioned. I'm one of those. And they go get their academic degrees and everything works out and they're accomplished members of the academy. But you also have that practitioner background in you. So I think it's all the above and perhaps the new model going forward.
I would agree with Jesus that I think in many respects there are nuances to teaching, but I think at the core lies how do we reach people to, as Bill Green said last night, how do we create inspiration? And I think that's, whether or not it's in an online or a blended environment, whether or not it's through a cohort or elsewhere, I think that's what the cohorts do. I think that's what a lot of what my colleagues here have been talking about is how do we get people who really care about the outcomes with students into the classroom or into these programs, because that's, in my mind, the key differentiator. Whether we use an online, blended, or flipped classroom to do it, I think the key is to get inspiration behind the helm of that.
And I would agree that fundamentally, at the foundational level, all teachers are being prepared with the same set of skills using, classroom management is probably one of the biggest issues that, we hear across the board as being issues. Differentiated instruction. Dealing with students with disabilities and IEP plans, and that's across all, content areas. So, I would agree that, CTE teachers are all, part of that big group of teachers that require the same kind of skills. And, Jan, it's interesting you mentioned, our content areas then, should there be separate kind of programs for them? And in New Jersey, they started to do that with math teachers because, same thing, an alternate route math teacher coming in, sitting next to a social studies teacher, they also said there's so much more value in working in a cohort of those that are, have the same kind of content area. So I think it's kind of both. It's blended, we're talking blended learning, but the fact that CTE teachers need those kind of foundational skills, as all teachers do, yet have some, specific additional needs.
Ray, if I can just play off of that comment, it's interesting you mentioned classroom management discipline. In our world, teachers self-select the classes that they take from us, and the most popular three, as I was looking at my list and you were talking, were number one is classroom management, number two is discipline, and number three is Singapore math. And it's interesting to me because what that tells us probably is that these are endemic problems in every classroom situation, endemic to every person coming into the profession of teaching, and that really engaged master teachers, so those, as Jesus said, are engaged to be master teachers, want a different outlook, want another strategy, because we haven't found a one-size-fits-all for these problems that are endemic in the classroom. So we have to keep going at it, and we have to engage with others in a cohort to figure that out. So it's just fascinating to me that the interplay there.
Jan asked if our profession was becoming a second career profession, and I would say that I don't have any statistics for this, but we don't teach any daytime CTE teacher classes at Oklahoma State University. It's all at night because we don't have those traditional young people. Now we have, in my cohort of the Teacher Institute with SREB, we had a couple that were under 40, but the rest were over 40. So we're seeing much older people coming into the teaching profession after they've had their career. Again, you don't have a 20-year-old typically, an ASE, master mechanic at 20. They have some time in the profession to gain that. There's exceptions, of course, but I think we are seeing that. And, many times they're more mature. They are, have established a career before that. So there's some pluses, but also they don't have that academic momentum. They haven't been to school in a very long time. So many times you have to go back and kind of help them, get that confidence that they can learn some new things. And, they went straight to work out of high school, many of them, and don't have any college hours. So coming back and thinking about taking university level courses can be very daunting. So, a lot of support, and that's why I think these programs that have mentors in the school and have a cohort to help them gain that confidence are very critical.
All right, so I have a whole list of questions, but I want to open it up to the audience. Yes?
I think there are what are the strategies to recruit high school students to teach? I know that in agricultural education, they've done a
They do
nice
a great
job
job.
of promoting that. But I
Absolutely.
think about how many times in family consumer sciences are those students shared the opportunities in teaching. I think there's also an issue with recruiting teacher educators. We have a shortage of teacher educators. Maybe again, not in agricultural education per se, but as we look at skilled and technical sciences or family consumer sciences. So how can we promote teachers to go pursue a PhD so they can be a teacher educator? So I think those are two things that we need to think about. Is how do we actively recruit from the high school classroom those students, encourage them throughout the university process, but then also how are we going to recruit teacher educators? If I'm in Nebraska right now and we have a 2+2 program with the university in regards to skilled and technical sciences, we can't find anyone to teach that at the university level. So again, what are some ways that we can do that? I'm curious if there are initiatives in each state, whether it's for the recruiting teacher educators or promoting career tech ed teaching for high school students.
Anybody want to take that?
It's a great question, and you know, similar to what Belinda said earlier, New Jersey really has 0 teacher prep programs for CTE professionals. So our agriculture programs are outside of the state. I think ag again is one that we do see the development of students, and that's probably of all of our cluster areas where we do have young teachers coming into the profession. But health sciences, as you know, nationally, we're in a crisis, and we do, you know, we're working around the state to try to work even with our workforce development partners about how do you get more health educators in. But we can't sustain our nursing programs in the state because we don't have, you know, enough health educators there. So it's a great question, and I can't, you know, really say that we've been able to tackle that beyond saying it's a genuine problem. So I don't know, Belinda.
One of the things that we did a few years ago was to develop some modules, how well, and at the state level, to suggest that classroom teachers integrate that as to introduce students to the idea that teaching is a career path from their CTE programs in high school. How well that's being utilized, I've lost touch with that since I left the State Department, but that was there. When there was a little bit of money for recruitment and that kind of thing, you know, we all chase the dollars. But that's one thing. I don't think we do a very good job of offering an idea of a career path. We look at pathways and career majors in our area. We don't include the teaching as far as family and consumer sciences and, you know, STEM and all of that. That's not one of our pathways, and it really should be. In every one of our programs, our students should be exposed to that's a pathway within your profession. You learn the skills, but that's always a pathway that you can teach. And we do a terrible job of that. But like I said, the ag people, they get recognized in our state for having that legacy, for bringing a new teacher into the program. We should be doing that in all of our areas, celebrating those teachers who actually one of their students become a teacher. That often happens in ag and family consumer sciences, and we're seeing that occur at our technology centers because several of our teachers through our cohort have said, I'm here because my former teacher called me and said he's getting ready to retire, would I consider teaching? So, you know, we're seeing that, but it's more on a one-to-one basis.
I once said to a group of teachers who were sitting in a room and they were bitching like crazy about teaching.
Yes.
And I said, you know, listening to you guys, why would anybody want to go into the teaching profession? So sometimes we're our own worst enemy. You know, how do you make it exciting for those students if all they see is the anger and the frustration, and they read about it in the paper? Then, you know, they're going to go, why am I going to do that? So, there's someone in the back said, oh, Ron, I'm sorry, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's interesting to me as I listen to my colleagues talk about the teachers. We have a cohort of over 300 instructors that are offering our courses through our community college network, and over 2/3 of them are our former teachers. Their second career with us their first career was a teacher. And what they, without exception, talk about is what they love about teaching online is developing personal relationships with their students. They love that. They don't miss classroom management. They don't miss the discipline, the physical discipline issues associated with an urban environment or any school environment. And they love the sheer joy of helping someone master a subject area. And so I think that story, we've been talking in our organization about how do we, in recruiting more teachers, how do we use them to recruit the next, because those are the people we want in front of our students.
Yeah. Yes, in the back.
Good morning. My name is Peter Gilmore. I get off as Professional Development Director for Mass Association of Vocational Management. We have 80 Mass people in the conference. I feel I need to just give you a little bit of an update here. One, to that point, we're in the process of putting together a Future Teachers of America
Right.
program. That exists. You can just Google that. That exists. That's a format that you can easily follow in order to do that. Where is that group coming from? It's coming from, I just heard from FFA, that's teacher, vocational student organizations. Those are your, those are the
That's right.
choir. Those are the people who want to be choir. They already are convinced that vocational technical education is the greatest thing that ever happened. And believe me, if you get inside their heads, they want to teach. And they will come back after they've done their time and got their license and all of that piece. So that's one piece I would just say to you. Two, to the points that were raised here, we have all the same problems. So if you've heard anything about Mass being fabulous and fantastic, and we've got everything all figured out, we don't. Okay, but we do some things very well. To the point of getting teachers through this process of licensure, which is 13 courses, which is expensive. We saw the teachers taking the teacher test, the numbers were dropping dramatically. So as an organization, we're a nonprofit, we're just an organization like anybody else. We're not public, so to speak. Nobody else was helping us, so we needed to do that. What did we do? We developed an extended campus program, a cohort program, which works like this. We just pay the college for the credits. We offer the course. We hire the teacher. So the teachers are actually taking the course instead of $900 or $1,000. They're only paying about $285. How does that work? The school sponsors it. They pay the instructor. The participants pay for the credits, plus a $50 charge that we add on to that. Pay our person just to organize and set that program up. So just, if you have any questions at all, just go to MAVA.US. My name's there. Bob Packett's there who runs that program. You can email us.
Great.
I'd be happy to give you more information. But I felt the need to enlighten you again, not because we have it figured out, but we have an approach. To the comment about online instruction is great. What we find with our teachers is they want to meet other teachers.
All right, so I'm going to interrupt you because we only have a few minutes left, and I wanted to make sure, because we didn't even begin to scratch the surface. We have a couple minutes, and I was going to try to give you guys closing remarks, but I want to get some of these questions or comments, Bob.
I just wanted to comment. My original evaluation plan for New Jersey included CTSOs as mentors to new teachers. I would agree with the comments. We have experts in the schools in CTE as their kids. And in fact, many of the CTSOs require students to actually teach a lesson. So I think there was concern about liability and the whole fact that kids could actually be getting feedback to teachers about how effective they are in their teaching. I think that there are lots of ways that you can begin to get that to happen. The second piece is from somebody who's kind of a generalist in my area of interest is experiential learning. I think that CTE teachers in some ways have a leg up on more traditional teachers because good education requires project-based learning. We're trying to do something at the University of Minnesota where we're talking about service learning, civic education, and CTE. They all have common denominators. They all involve community. They all involve the integration of academics and hands-on learning, which is supposedly what programs of study is all about, and that's supposedly where the field of CTE is going. So we need to get our academic teachers and our CTE teachers working together, developing projects. The cohort model seems to be very, very important.
Right.
In New Jersey, they talked about the fact that the cohort Saturday lunch meeting is probably the most important thing, where they get to sit down and talk to one another without anybody else around. So I think that in some ways we do a disservice to the educational field by separating CTE and thinking that it really is different, when in fact somebody doing an internship in an automotive shop may not be much different than Oklahoma has a wonderful seed of citizenship in their college and career readiness. Doing an internship in a legislative office is still an internship. And so I think that we need to start doing more to get the CTE strengths infused into general teacher education.
Last one, yes, in the back.
Good morning. My name is Lauren Woodman, and I work for Microsoft. And I come with a different hat on this particular question. Microsoft launched a partnership. It's not an advertisement in visual context here for the question. Microsoft launched a partnership with the Department of Education about a year ago, which will actually go live on April 2nd, called Teach.org. And Teach is an effort to go recruit 1 million kids in the profession of teaching over the next 3 to 5 years. And we're looking at a whole bunch of different things around diversity and high achievers and so on and so forth. We've struggled with this question around teacher recruitment. And it strikes me over the last couple of days, listening to this conversation, and this conversation in particular, we just came out of a whole round of focus groups with students all over the country about why they did or did not choose teaching as a career from a whole variety of demographic backgrounds. And one of the key things that kids were telling us that why they did not choose teaching as a career was because they had other options, right? They could go into industry, they could go do other things, and they didn't want to lose that opportunity or that connection with industry and potential career paths in the future by choosing a study a course of study around education. It strikes me though that we have an interesting opportunity when it comes to CTE where that opportunity isn't particularly lost. And there's a really interesting conversation I think that we need to start around for kids that have aptitude in career and technical fields that maybe do great in their careers but also could be fabulous educators. How do we start to surface some of the issues and frankly some of the opportunities in a career in CTE education that they are frankly not aware of? When we exposed kids to the opportunities that if they studied physics they could go do A, B, or C in addition to teaching, or they could be involved in industry council, and they could be involved in working with local businesses to improve courses of study, their opinions about how they perceive teaching as a career changed dramatically. And so I'd ask for some feedback from the panel and frankly for anybody who can help us kind of think through this hard issue. How would we start to think about exposing what those opportunities are so that we can get kids at the high school level or at the vocational training level to consider teaching as a career by understanding what the connections are around the impact that they may have, or the connection that they might have to the industry and their chosen career path in the future.
All right. Anybody want to address that quickly?
I think for years we've sold education as it's a great way to have time with your family. However, many of our CTE teachers work in industry in the summer. They work in industry, when the holidays are over. They have that relationship, or they have a business on the side. They still run a business. I know one of our best HVAC teachers, still has a business. Someone else runs it. He teaches, but he has that contractor and also the instructor and the worker experience. So I think you're right. I don't think we really have the pathways. We don't talk about all the pathways and the options that you have when you can teach, and that's very healthy. I know that one of the models from other countries is that schools and businesses co-employ CTE teachers, and they still spend time in the school, then they go work in industry. Spend time in the school, they go work in industry, and that's very healthy to keep the CTE teachers up to speed in industry. So I think we need to look at some different models. I agree.
All right. Unfortunately, we're over time, but somehow this always goes so quickly, and we barely scratched the surface. Literally, I think I got through one of my 8 questions. So, that's it. But it was good. I think what it tells us is, and I love, Jesus, the way you put it, that we need a new model for teacher preparation. It is no longer about academic CTE. There are commonalities as well as there are differences. How do we take advantage of the commonalities? And the other thing I think that was stated here was, how do we use our student organizations and our current teachers to recruit new ones, which is really important. And I think also industry engagement is going to bring in a lot of, even if they're adjunct teachers, and how do we train those? So this is a critical issue that we haven't begun to scratch the surface on. But we're running out of time in which to do it. So there are great examples that are happening. Time will tell whether they're the right examples. I know they'll hang around for a little bit, but I don't want to keep you from your break. So thank you, and please help me thank the panelists.